you for tuning in to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today. We'll be covering 4 different topics. The first one's going to be about how can teams that made it to the divisional series improve and get farther than that and elevate their teams a little bit. Next, we'll be talking about smaller free agents still out there on the market. We've heard a lot about the big free agents, the Boris 4 in a way, but what about the smaller guys that can still make a big impact to a team? So we'll be talking about that. Then we'll be talking about the spring training standing so far and what to make of it. And finally, just some other news around the league that I did think was important. Before we do that, I would like to ask you to please like and follow the show. We get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read on the air and by me, please use the link you see on the screen there, gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help me. It really does help the show. It really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. Also, I noticed that 51% of the people watching this content are not subscribed, so be sure to subscribe. You get updates whenever we post. You can see all of our videos, not just mine, but everyone else's who makes great content as well. So, subscribe. 51% of you are not who watch our content, so please do. You get notified. It helps us a lot, so thank you so much for that. All right, so we're going to get into our first segment here today. And our first segment is going to be what I previewed a little bit in the intro, and that is going to be about talking about teams who made it to the divisional round of the playoffs, how they can improve and get farther than that. So obviously the past 2 or 3 days I've been talking about teams who made it to the World Series and the Championship Series and all that stuff, and how they can improve and how they can get past that. But so I want to continue with that and talk about the other playoff teams who did make it to the divisional round and how they can not only get past the division round but even make it to the World Series as well. Just talking about an overview of what they've done and how they can improve more. And let's get straight into it. So first I'm going to start off with the AL. And the first team I'm going to start off with is the Minnesota Twins. Now, the Twins have had a very interesting offseason. First, one of the big moves was letting Sonny Gray walk. Was really no competition for them to they were really not a big part of the competition to re-sign him. Obviously, he ended up going to the St. Louis Cardinals on a 3-year contract for $75 million. So on the surface, it looks really kind of interesting and weird that, okay, this guy just won the Cy Young for you, came over in a very successful trade, helped you win your first playoff game in like 19 years. So why would you let him go? Now, I think it's fair to wonder that, but it's kind of the same thing with the whole Twins offseason. They let a good amount of people go. They traded Jorge Polanco as well. So the fact is they just have a lot of good young talent. And I think that good young talent is going to be, just filling in for the spots they traded and let go, like Sonny Gray, like Jorge Polanco. Both those guys are very good veteran players who I think any team would love to have. It's just the fact that they have ready-made replacements already in their organization that can easily just replace their value and help them not overpay for someone they maybe don't think is going to repeat that or they don't think is a long-term part of that future. So it makes sense to me for the Twins, right? Of course you have that ace tandem of Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan, but you also have younger guys like Bailey Ober who can fill in, Chris Paddock coming back from injury. You have Anthony DeSclafani, who you just traded for, who's more of a depth piece, but still part of this. You have Louis Varland, who I think is going to be a big part of this. You have prospects like Simeon Woods Richardson. So, yes, you're letting go of Sonny Gray, a guy who was a Cy Young candidate for you, but you still have other guys who can fill in. A top 2 in that rotation of Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan is pretty great, anyways. So, as much as Sonny Gray is really good, he wasn't a necessity for them to re-sign, so it's not that big of a deal. Jorge Polanco, the same thing with Royce Lewis's the way he came onto the scene last year, especially in the playoffs. I think the writing was on the wall for Polanco to switch teams. You also have a youngster like Brooks Lee, who's probably going to make the MLB roster, probably going to be their opening day second baseman. So you have a lot of pieces in that Twins organization that are young that can easily fill in for these guys that you let walk. And also, you got some good players this offseason. You did that big trade with Seattle to trade Jorge Polanco. You got back Anthony DeSclafani, who's a nice depth piece. You got back Justin Topa, who's a very good reliever. You got back a nice prospect, outfield prospect, who obviously not going to impact them this year, but is still a big part of that future, and I think was a good move. So when you are an organization like the Twins who develops these guys, these prospects very well, you have the flexibility of letting these veteran guys walk and not paying them so much and helping your long-term flexibility because you have such a good organizational philosophy in developing talent. And you may say, okay, well, they play in Minnesota. Who's going to sign there? So there's no point. Just re-sign these guys anyways because you're not going to sign a big free agent. I mean, Carlos Correa signed there. Carlos Correa was a superstar shortstop from Puerto Rico. I mean, who played in Houston, Texas before this. If Carlos Correa will sign there, I think any player would. I think you've seen more and more now, especially with how the Royals did this offseason. It's less about location and more about the organization and how they can win and what their philosophy is and what they've shown in the past. Now, a location certainly does help. I mean, obviously teams are going to want to rather go to a team like the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, Padres over, a team like the Royals or the Twins because of weather and stuff like that. But I don't think it's as big of a factor. So I definitely think this is a good offseason for the Twins. I mean, Manuel Margot was a nice trade for them. I like the Carlos Santana signing. They have a lot of good pieces, and I think the Twins are getting overlooked a little bit. And I definitely think they're going to be a big factor in this AL. I think they're probably the fourth best team right now in the American League. I would have the Astros, Orioles, and Yankees above them. But they still have a lot of good players. If Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa can play up to their status and be healthy, I think that improves your team so much. So I think they're the big X factors for this team and really looking forward to seeing what they can do. So yeah, Twins made some good moves, and I think they could definitely improve, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do this year. Moving on to the other American League team who lost in the divisional round, and that is the Baltimore Orioles. Now, the Orioles have had, an interesting offseason, to say the least. Starting off with, a few weeks ago, they did have a new change in ownership. I think it was good because their last ownership was not the best. I think any baseball fan knows that. They've known that for a little while now. You brought in Cal Ripken as an investor in part of the, as a minority owner in the Orioles as well. So that, bringing in a former legend of your team can never hurt. And right after their new owner came in, they acquired Corbin Burnes, one of the better pitchers in baseball. So I'm looking forward to their future. I mean, they've definitely gotten better this offseason, like 100%. I mean, not only are you going to have young prospects come up, like, of course, Mr. Jackson Holliday, who is unbelievable, but you're adding in Corbin Burnes to that rotation. I would like to see them add one more pitcher, which will probably go down in another segment, hint. But, yeah, I mean, I think they've had a good offseason. I definitely think they've improved, especially with the Corbin Burnes signing. The Kyle Bradish injury hurts a little bit, but I think Burnes adds another level of depth to that rotation they didn't have before. You also have younger guys like Grayson Rodriguez who can help in. You have John Means coming back from Tommy John, who definitely needs to prove himself after that injury. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the Orioles. Like I said, right now, I have them as the top 3 team in the AL. Anywhere from 3-1, I don't think is a bad choice. I think it's them, the Astros, and the Yankees as kind of the leaders of the pack right now. Again, you have the Twins, who I think are definitely a factor in this. The Blue Jays could make some noise if everything goes right. The Rangers and Mariners could as well. But right now I have those 3 teams as really the big guys in the AL and teams that can make teams that are really my favorites for the American League and what they can do with that. So, yeah, looking forward to that, and looking forward to seeing how this young Orioles team plays, and especially with their new additions. I mean, I love what they've done. I mean, they're going to be so fun to watch. It's just incredible with all the young talent they have. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And, they won 101 games last year, so it's hard to get better than that. But the way you can is winning a playoff series, and that's what they need to do. Moving on to the NL here, and the first team is the Dodgers. And it's kind of hard to believe that the Dodgers were eliminated in the first round last year because all the noise they made this offseason and everyone who's been talking about them. So, it's very interesting with them. Again, they made so much noise this offseason, so many signings, so many moves that, it's strange to think about. Oh yeah, they lost in the first round. They won 1 game. Like that's crazy to think about for me. But yeah, I think the Dodgers have definitely improved this offseason. I don't think anyone's gonna disagree with that. Signing Yamamoto, Ohtani, Glass now traded for Paxton, Teoscar Hernandez. We've said so much about the Dodgers offseason. We don't need to say more. They've 100% improved. They're probably the best team in baseball on paper right now. There is a good amount of fight in that NL right now. I mean, you have the Braves, of course, who I'm going to talk about actually next. You, of course, have the Diamondbacks, who if you watch the show or if you listen to it, I've said multiple times now how much I love the Diamondbacks offseason, how much I love what they did, and I'm really looking forward to watching them. So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to this NL. It's definitely going to be a dogfight. I mean, you have such teams that have proved themselves. I mean, the Dodgers, Braves, Phillies, Diamondbacks, you even have the Reds, like a younger team like that. The Cubs, who made a lot of additions. Giants, Padres, Mets made some. Like, it's going to be very, very fun to watch this NL. And, we've had a surprise these past few years coming out of the NL. So I don't think that should change this year, and we'll see who comes out of it. But coming back from that pretty horrible showing last year in the playoffs, the Dodgers definitely need to improve themselves, need to show that they are built for the playoffs. I think not having Lance Lynn on your roster is a good sign for that. You have so much more pitching. I will say, there's a good amount of question marks in that Dodgers rotation that people don't really want to mention. I mean, you have Yamamoto, who unfortunately is a question mark because it is his first year here. He's still amazing. You guys know my thoughts on Yamamoto. I think he's elite. He's going to be a top 3 pitcher in baseball rather quickly. That's how highly I think of him. But it is his first season in the MLB, and there's a lot of factors that go into that. So definitely have to look at that as a bit of a question mark. You have Buehler, who's coming back from 2 full seasons out. He's a question mark. Glasnow has been hurt in his career a lot. That's another question mark. Paxton's contract had to be put down of the guarantees because of injury risk. So Bobby Miller, Emmett Sheehan, good pitchers, but both young, so you have to look at them as a risk. You don't know what's going to happen with them. You don't know how they're going to perform in a bigger role. So as much as the Dodgers have had it a lot and, of course, have been amazing signings, there are some risks there, and I think it's going to be, I think they're going to do very well, but I think when it comes to playoffs, it's really going to, their true colors are going to shine like the last few years, and I'm looking forward to see what happens here and see what they do. So next, we have the team I just talked about as a competitor to the Dodgers, of course, the Atlanta Braves. Braves, again, also had kind of a peculiar offseason. I thought it was for sure they were going to sign one of the big free agents for starting pitchers. I kind of thought Blake Snell was going to go there. He could still go there. I mean, they could be in negotiation with him right now, and we would never know because it's the Braves and they don't let anything leak. So good for them. But they've made a few interesting moves, but no big ones. So first, they signed Reynaldo Lopez to a 3-year contract to be a starter. If you know Reynaldo Lopez, you know he is not a starter. He is a reliever. And they're going to be stretching him out to make him a starter. It's a very interesting move. A lot of teams are doing it as well, trying to stretch out proven relievers so they think they have good stuff to be a starter. Definitely a question mark, but I think they just didn't like the starting pitcher prices on the market. They thought it was too much, and I guess that's why they're doing it. So, I definitely think that's something to watch here, how Reynaldo Lopez does perform as a starting pitcher. They also traded for Chris Sale, of course, who, it's 2024, so we don't know how great Chris Sale really can be. He's still a good player, but at the same time, there's been some injury risks in the past few seasons. His stuff has gone down. I mean, he shined in his first spring training debut with them, but there are also question marks for Chris Sale, of course, considering, what the past few years of his career look like. But if you gave up a lot for him, actually, in my opinion. I think Vaughn Grissom was a good amount to give up. I'm very high in him, so I think this trade could blow up in your face in the next few years or so. But again, I've learned to not doubt anything the Braves have done, especially as a Mets fan being in their division. So I'm not going to sit here and say what all the moves they made were absolutely horrible. But I think there are some question marks you have to look into with it. Especially, they made one starting addition for the lineup, and that was Jared Kelenic. Obviously, Kelenic was a top prospect in baseball for 2 different teams, the Mariners and the Mets. And he just did not perform very well for the Mariners once he got traded there. And, had some attitude issues as well. I think kind of forced his way out of Seattle just with that in his performance. So, playing now in Atlanta, he gets to be in probably one of the better lineups in baseball. Hit in the 9 spot, not that many expectations, but if he does fail, I think you kind of have to look at maybe an end of his baseball career. I mean, it's that drastic at this point. So, it's another move that I thought was good, but just not something that really takes them over the top, in my opinion. When you have teams who added, like the Dodgers, a team like the Phillies, who have just owned you in the playoffs these past few years, I definitely think you have to look at that and kind of think about what's gonna go on with that, and kind of think about your long-term future and see if you want to add more. I mean, Blake Snell's still out there. Jordan Montgomery is. If they sign one of them, I would not be surprised, especially with how low-key their rumors are. So, I think that's something you have to look at. And hopefully all these 4 teams can elevate themselves to get past the divisional round, go to the championship, maybe even make the World Series. So going to be something exciting to watch here. So that's the end of my first segment. We're going to go to a break here, but our second segment is going to be about smaller free agents. Free agents still left in the market that I think are important to talk about, and I think are still difference makers, even though they don't have the highest name profile. So we're definitely going to talk about that, and we'll talk about it right after this break. So see you then. Bye.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment. But before that, please do remember to like and subscribe. Use the donate link on the screen, gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show. It really does mean a lot. 51% of you watching this content on YouTube are not subscribed, so make sure you're subscribed to make sure you get notifications whenever we upload, not just me, but all the other great and amazing content creators on this channel. So, it would really be appreciated. And, again, we make great content, so I'm sure you'd love to view it. All right, so we're going to our second segment here, and as I talked about it before the break, of course, and that is going to be about free agents, but maybe not who you expect. So the entire off season, or the time I've been doing this show, really, we've been talking about the Boris Four and all the big free agents left, as we should. They're very important, and they're obviously superstars, and they're being talked about a lot because they are such great players. But I feel like players that have gone under the radar a little bit are players that with a smaller that have a smaller name recognition, or are not superstars, but still I think are very impactful players to teams that can help a lot, and players that can help teams win, be a big impact to them. So I just want to talk about them, and talk about some fits for them as well, and how they can affect the team. So let's get started with that. So first I have Mr. Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham is a very interesting guy, as we know. Kind of got himself back in the public eye, in a good way this year with his performance with the Mets and then Diamondbacks. People thought he had some character issues coming back after the situation with Jock Peterson. We all know what I'm talking about, where he slapped him over fantasy football. But I think Tommy Pham still at this point in his career is a very, very good player. He had a great breakout season with the Mets after a few mediocre years. Got his eyesight fixed, which I definitely think was part of that. No one really knows this, but I have the same eye disease as Tommy Pham, keratoconus, and I can vouch firsthand how important those contacts are, and how important the right prescription is as someone who does have that disease. So, it was extremely impactful, and I definitely think it was a big factor in the way he played with the Mets. You saw the impact right away after he said he got new contacts. So, two teams that came to mind right away when talking about Pham and where he could sign was first his former team, the Padres. The Padres need outfield help. There's no sugarcoating that. They only have they have like 3 outfielders on the 40-man roster, which is crazy. I think Tommy Pham would not only help with the outfield depth, but just be another great bat to add to that lineup. And again, he had a great season last year. It's not like he was bad and teams are just signing him to be depth because they need an outfielder. He had a really good season last year. And I'm looking forward to see what he does this year. And, I think the Padres are a good fit. I don't know how the fan base likes him. I think there was some beef there with him and the fan base, I think, earlier this year. But I think winning's all that matters. And if he can win, I think it'll be okay. The Mariners, I think, also could use him. They need some help still with the overall outfield, and I think Pham would make a lot of sense for that. Would also bring a chip on his shoulder to this younger team that I think maybe needs a little bit more fire in him. So I think Tommy Pham to the Padres and the Mariners makes some sense. I think both teams need an outfielder. Both teams do make sense as fits for Pham, and I want him to sign soon. And I think he's very impactful to a team, and I'm looking forward to see where he lands as a fan of him personally. Next, we have Michael A. Taylor. He's another guy like Tommy Pham, an outfielder. He was the fourth outfielder of the Twins last year, filling in and starting a little bit when Byron Buxton was hurt. So he hits for a lot of power and plays really, really good defense. Really what he's known for is his defense. He's a center fielder, so very important. I thought of two teams. One was, of course, the Padres. Any outfielder I have to mention with the Padres because of just their lack of depth there, and they still have money to spend. So I think he could make sense there playing center field. Also, I think his former team, the Royals, makes some sense. Going back there, they obviously know him very well. You also have the fact of the Royals do need some outfield help, and I think with them showing they want to win, I think Michael A. Taylor going back there would be an interesting fit. And I think both these teams do make a lot of sense for him, and I'm looking forward to see where he lands and how he can impact the team. I think he's a really underrated player, and I think his glove is one of the best in the business. So next, we have Adam Duvall, another guy I'm really kind of shocked still out on the market. He's a really good player, and he's still out here. No one, there was a rumor a long time ago that he was between the Angels and the Red Sox, but obviously that didn't go anywhere. So. Yeah, with him, I think the Angels and Red Sox do make sense, like I said before. Both in the outfield help. Both could use them. Again, I have to mention the Padres because, again, outfielder. So, yeah, Duvall's an interesting one. Going to be interesting to see where he signs. And, I'm looking forward to see how he can impact the team. I think he's a pretty good center fielder and a guy that can definitely help. And another underrated guy in this smaller crop of free agents. So, looking forward to see what happens with Mr. Duvall. And, he can't land in Jacksonville, unfortunately, because there's no Jacksonville baseball team. But that would be pretty great if he could because of Duvall. But, next, we have Brandon Belt, who I really only have one team here, and that team is the Rangers. I think the Rangers make so much sense for Brandon Belt. They need some help with DH still. I think they've been mentioning rumors with JD Martinez, who I'm not going to be talking about here because I'm going to talk about him Monday when we get updates on the free agents on this weekend. But I think they need a lot of help in that DH spot. Brandon Belt can still hit righties at a high level, still walks good, has a high on-base percentage. So I think he still brings value to a team. He's also a veteran to this Rangers team, which they definitely need after winning the World Series. Just load yourself up with veterans, try to repeat. And, of course, you have to think about the Bruce Bochy connection. Bruce Bochy, of course, was the legendary manager for the Giants in those 3 World Series they won in 6 years. And Belt was a big part of that, of course, being their starting first baseman. Of course, now Bochy is the manager of the Rangers. And so with the connection Belt has to Bochy and to the Rangers organization, I think that makes a lot of sense for him to go there. I think the Rangers make a ton of sense for Brandon Belt. Of course, other teams do make sense and fit, but I think the Rangers just make too much sense for him not to go there. There was a rumor before, I believe it was from Buster Only, about him talking about the Rangers and Belt. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And I'm looking forward to see what happens with Belt and just the market moving in general and where he could go. So next we'll be talking about another guy who's similar like Belts, a big lefty first baseman who hits righties pretty well and walks a lot. I am, of course, talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Joey Votto. Votto, of course, had an illustrious career with the Reds and is now a free agent for one of the first times in his career, maybe even the first. So I think there's really three options for Joey Votto to go. One, of course, is re-signing with the Reds. I don't know what the fit would be because they do have a good amount of infield depth there, and they are a younger team who I don't know if they want to give Votto the opportunity he's looking for, but it would be fun for him to end out his career with one team. Second is retire and play his whole career with the Reds. If he doesn't get an offer or no offers from a team that he would really like, I think retiring just makes some sense. And he's had an amazing career, probably a Hall of Famer. I think he's the definition of borderline, but I think he gets in the end because of how many people like him and just his overall career stats, how good he was consistently until maybe the last 2 years of his career. And when talking about Votto, you of course have to mention the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays haven't mentioned with Votto really his entire career, considering he is probably the best baseball player ever from Toronto or even Canada. I mean, he's definitely up there with guys like Larry Walker, but I definitely think he's probably top five. I think Freddie Freeman as well. He's not from Canada, but he's Canadian, played for Team Canada, but you get the point. He's from Toronto. The Blue Jays, of course, are probably going to lose Brandon Belt. He would fit in right there immediately as a fit. You did sign Justin Turner as a DH, but you could platoon them a little bit. You could have Turner play some third base, even first base if he wants, play him around the diamond. Votto is just a bench bat. And, of course, the storyline is amazing. I mean, you have to look at storylines. Baseball and sports are a business, and I think Votto going back to Toronto will be an amazing storyline. And I would like to see him end up in Toronto, to be completely honest. And, I want to see what happens with that. And, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with Votto, one of the best personalities in our game. Just seems like a great guy, great dude. So I'm looking forward to, I don't know why I'm saying looking forward too much. Sorry about that. But, I'm interested to see what happens with him. And, want to see where he lands. And hopefully he lands with the Blue Jays because it would be really, really fun. Next thing we have our last position player is Eddie Rosario. Now, Eddie's kind of okay. Not really that high in Eddie Rosario. It's kind of the same teams I mentioned with the outfielders. Padres, Mariners, Royals, Angels, Red Sox, kind of those teams. I think Eddie could end up anywhere. He could reach out with the Braves, I guess, maybe be a fourth outfielder type role, late pinch hitting scenarios against righties. But, I just want to mention him because he was there, but I think it's kind of the same as the other ones. He's a fine player. Can't really play defense, but he's good at hitting sometimes. So next we are going to move to our three starting pitchers. The first one is going to be Michael Lorenzen. He was an all-star this year, and he's still in the market, which is crazy. Broke out with the Tigers after a few mediocre seasons with the Reds, then going to the Angels. I think any team that still needs a pitcher could definitely look for Lorenzen. The Padres, of course, makes sense. They need a pitcher. He's been rumored with the Mets a little bit, especially today. There were some rumors going around that the Mets are prepared to make him a contract offer from MLB Network Radio, but I don't think that's very reliable. And if it is, I'll let you know on the show if something does happen with that, but I doubt it. You have the Pirates, who could use some more starting pitching. I think that's a team that should definitely look Lorenzen, especially because where his price might be right now. The Giants make a lot of sense, in my opinion, with the injuries they've had to their starting pitching. I think the Giants make a lot of sense for Lorenzen. I think that's where he should go. Giants had him to a one-year deal. Really solidifies that rotation. I mean, Tristan Beck, Keaton Wynn, Alec Cobb, Robbie Ray, all those guys are going to be hurt and out for a little bit. So I think signing a guy like Lorenzen really solidify that depth in your rotation. And, if you're bad, you can trade him at the deadline on a one-year contract. That's something like the Tigers did. And if you're good and he doesn't fit, you can, move him to the bullpen. He's a swingman type. So I think Lorenzen brings a lot of value to whatever team he does end up in. And I think especially these four teams make a lot of sense for him. Next, we're going to talk about a little bit of a forgotten man, and that is Noah Syndergaard. We know Syndergaard's story at this point. One of the better starting pitchers in baseball, starting his career with the Mets. Went to the Angels on a shocker move that shocked every Mets fan, including me. Did not play very well with the Angels. Got traded to the Phillies. Was okay there. Signed a big one-year contract with the Dodgers. did not perform there. Got traded for Ahmed Rosario. Did not perform well for the Guardians. Was DFA'd and has been out there since. He's gotten some non-roster invite deals, but he's looking for a Major League one. I haven't really heard many teams connected to him. I think the Padres and Pirates make some sense as teams that could take a flyer on him. Teams that are kind of really desperate for pitching depth. I still think he does have name recognition, so I think that will also work in your favor if you're a smaller market team like the Pirates. But yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with Syndergaard as a Mets fan. He'll always have a special place in my heart, especially for that 2015 World Series. So I'm excited to see where he goes and excited to see if his career can take off again. And finally, we have Mike Clevinger. Clevinger, I think, is the same teams we've really mentioned with the other pitching. Padres, Mets, Giants, Padres. I think I said Padres twice. Yeah, Giants. I think those teams just do make some sense for Clevinger. He does have some character issue concerns. He did have an investigation put into him because of some domestic violence allegations. He got a punishment that is unknown by MLB. So I think that you have to look into that also when you're looking at signing him. We're not going to talk more about that, but I think that's kind of a big reason why he's still not signed, because of the character concerns and, it's kind of being late in the offseason still. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with him, but I think the teams we mentioned with pitching make sense for him as well. All right, so that is our second segment here. We're going to take another break, but next segment we're going to be talking about spring training standings, what to make of that, and what's going on with that. So we'll talk about that, and but before we'll go to our our second break, and we'll talk about segment 3 after. So thanks.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our third segment. The number 3 one here is going to be about spring training standings. Just some takeaways I have from it going, in around a week or so of it going on. And, I'm looking forward to see what happens. And just talking about this right now. So first, at the top of the Grapefruit League, we have the Baltimore Orioles. Not a surprise whatsoever. The Orioles have, I think spring training is more about playing your younger guys, your depth guys who, are going to be a big part of your team but may not make the roster right away. And the Orioles have such a good farm system that this makes sense that they're at the top of, it all. Jackson Holiday leading that prospect group. They have so many other guys as well. You have Corbin Burns, who's pitched a good amount as well in spring training. It makes a lot of sense that the Orioles are at the top of the Grapefruit League. They are 7-1 currently. Next, we have the Nationals, who are 4-2. Kind of the same thing as the Orioles, really. So many good young players that it makes sense they're second here. James Wood, Robert Hassel, Mackenzie Gore, C.J. Abrams, all those younger guys that are going to be big parts of the team. Even C.J. Abrams is really a big part of the team already, but he's still a younger player. It makes sense here. The Yankees are third with a 3-2 record. Soto's played a lot because he wants to get acclimated to being a Yankee, being part of this new team, new organization. So it's made sense that they're third. Had Spencer Jones perform really well. Overall, a good team. So not a surprise the Yankees are third here. Next, you have the Red Sox, 4-3. They've had some nice performances from their younger players. So not too big of a surprise that they are in this position here. Good for the Red Sox. Finally winning something, I guess. Tigers, 4-3. Also another younger team that's had good performances. Younger prospects like Parker Meadows, the recently extended Colt Keith, Tarek Skubal, who was today named as the opening day starter for the Tigers. Matt Manning, guys like that. So, I think I think the Tigers are going to be a team to watch this year and see how they do with their younger players. You have the Mets at 4-3 then. They've had some interesting performances. You've had breakout guys like Trace Thompson. Ji-Man Choi's played pretty well. Severino had his first start today, which we'll talk about later in the show. Your younger guys have performed good. You have your younger core of hitters like Drew Gilbert, Luis Angel Acuna. I'm forgetting one more. Jet Williams, sorry, that was the guy I was thinking of, who are definitely performing. So it makes sense the Mets are here. Makes sense they're having a good spring. Philly, they are 2-3 so far. 3-3. Read that wrong. Good spring for them so far. Guys are performing. Nolas pitched well. They threw a no-hitter. They almost threw a no-hitter, against the Yankees split squad team. They haven't had many additions this offseason, but I think they're looking forward to getting some more. Maybe potentially a guy like Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell. So, I definitely think those could be guys to watch and see if they sign with the Phillies. St. Louis next. They had one game, yes. They won today versus the Mets, actually, so good for them. They are also 3-3. They had Kyle Gibson's first Cardinals start yesterday. Did not go very well. But, you're just looking to see what your younger guys can do right now. Guys like Restrepo, guys like Wynn, Walker, Liberatore, who pitched today. So, I'm interested to see what happens with the Cardinals and the younger players and their interesting pitching staff, to say the least here. Next, you have the Braves, who are 3-4. They've had some of their signings work out pretty well so far in spring training. You've had Ken Giles, who's performed pretty well. Chris Sale's performed very well in his one appearance. So, just looking forward to things like that. We also have some news about Acuna today, so we're going to talk about that as well in our next segment. So, not gonna spoil that yet, but I'm sure if you follow baseball in spring training, you know what's going on with Acuna. Not a big deal, but again, we'll talk about it next segment. Houston. Also, how do they make these Grapefruit League standings? This is really weird. It's teams in Florida and Arizona. I don't know why I had a brain fart there. Sorry, that was my bad. I don't know why I said that. Anyways, that was bad. Astros 3-4. Nothing much to say here. They've had some nice performances from their players. Altuve's been, as he said, been trying to make the team, so we'll see if Altuve can make the team after getting a huge extension. Obviously a joke, but, nice to see there's still competitive juices flowing. And we talked about them before. They need to get over that hump, make it back to the World Series. And I think new manager Joe Espada is going to be a big part of that, so I'm looking forward to it. Miami is 2-3. I don't believe new addition Tim Anderson has played yet. We want to watch him, but other than that, their young pitchers have been performing pretty well. Ryan Weathers today played pretty well, was hitting good numbers on the velocity gun. Yuri Perez performed very well. The other young guys as well. So, just looking for what the Marlins young guys can do and what's going to happen with that and how they can perform this season and how they can affect them. Tampa, they are 2-3. An interesting offseason for Tampa. Obviously, you're going to have a new starter at shortstop. We've talked about Wander Franco enough. Let's just talk about the Rays in general. They've had a lot of turnover, of course, with Franco, with Glass now leaving. That rotation's kind of going to be headlined by Zach Eflin, Aaron Savale, the other younger guys like Taj Bradley, Ryan Pepio. So interesting to see what happens with the Rays here. Minnesota. Again, we talked about them enough. Looking to see what happens with Buxton and Correa over the spring as they start to play, and how can they perform? Will they come back from injury fairly well? It's now or never for them, I think, and they have to prove those contracts. So, I think that's something to watch. Toronto, they're second to last, which is strange, but you had Alek. I think the big one so far about them is Alek Manoah. Everyone was kind of expecting this to be his bounce back year, and he had his first start with the Blue Jays in spring training, and it did not go well at all. So I think it's kind of now or never for Manoah and what's going to happen with his career. So definitely need him to perform for the Blue Jays, and need him to be the Alek Manoah of the past. And if not, I think he'll be gone. Pittsburgh is last at 1-5, which is something I was not expecting. They have a lot of good young players, of course, after not being very good for so long. That's what's going to happen. Your young players are going to come up. They're going to start to perform. So, interesting that they are last. But I think they'll improve. I don't think this is a big deal. It is spring training at the end of the day, so they'll improve. It's fine. We're going to the Cactus League now, which is the teams who play in Arizona. You have Texas, who is 5-1. Makes sense that the defending world champions are at the top. Nothing else much to say there. They're really good, and I'm looking forward to see their title defense. We talked about them last episode, so if you want a few episodes ago actually. So if you want to see that, go check out the clip. Next we have the Reds, who also makes sense being here at number 2. They've had they have a very good young team, and I'm sure a lot of the guys are performing and playing well for them. It makes sense that they are second here, and looking forward to the Red season. If you guys listen to the podcast at all, you know I'm very high on the Reds, and I like what they've done. So I'm looking forward to it, to their season. The Dodgers, 5-2, not surprising. Ohtani and Yamamoto have only played in one game, so it makes sense that they're only 5-2. Sorry, only 5-2. I know that's a little low for their standards because of the Dodgers, but that's still pretty great. The younger players have been performing. Yamamoto played very well. Ohtani homer in his first Dodgers game because, of course, he did. He's Shohei Ohtani. Of course, the Dodgers aren't putting much stock into spring training and just what's going to happen there. So, yeah. Colorado's next. They've had a surprisingly nice spring. Their young players are starting to perform a little bit. The core is starting to come together. They had some interesting comments about Chris Bryant over yesterday, and how he kind of just signed with them to sign with the team. It was kind of interesting. You guys should check it out. Actually, the comments that Chris Bryant did make about the Rockies. We might talk about it next segment. I'm not sure yet. That was interesting to say the least. Kansas City is next, 5-3. Their new additions have been performing well. They're a younger team, of course, so I think the younger players are going to be playing in spring training a good amount. So I'm not surprised that they are at the top here and playing well. Arizona is 4-3 of the defending NL champions. Their new additions have been playing well as well. The whole team's trying to come together, kind of get the chemistry back of last year when they made that magical run to the World Series. So, good start for them for the spring, and hopefully they keep it going. As a guy who likes the Diamondbacks offseason a lot, as you guys know, hopefully they don't let me down. San Diego is next, 4-4. They're younger. Their pitching additions, specifically Johnny Brito, who's pitched a good amount of innings so far, have not been performing the greatest. But at the same time, you have to take it with a grain of salt. They're coming over to a new organization. They got to get everything set. So, I'm not putting too much stock into it right now. And, definitely looking forward to see what happens with them. Cubs are 3-3. They'll get better, I think, once Bellinger starts to play, once the other guys start to play as well. Pico Armstrong has played a little bit. You're also your new manager, Craig Counsell, is getting used to everything there. So it's fine. 3-3, it's whatever. The Angels are 3-3. We didn't expect them to be that good this spring training. Of course, you're letting so many players walk. They also had some injury news, which we'll definitely talk about next segment, so that could be hurting them. Not surprising about the Angels. We know this about them. Oakland next. They are 3-3. Sorry, the A's are not very good. This is not any crazy news here. They're not very good. I'm not as surprised that they're 3-3 in spring training. Kind of higher than I expected. They're playing KC next, so we'll see what happens there. Chicago White Sox, not Cubs. They are 3-5 currently. Playing the Cubs next. Battle of Chicago again. Again, not surprising. They're not a very good team. Nothing much else to say there. Cleveland 2-4. Carlos Carrasco has made some starts for them, which is interesting. I guess he's trying to make their roster, which is a fun storyline. I like it. So, yeah, but other than that, they haven't performed very well. Nothing much to else say here. Seattle 1-4, very underwhelming. Milwaukee 1-5, also very underwhelming. Again, the players haven't performed yet. But again, I want to make it clear that I'm taking all this with a grain of salt. It is spring training. No one should be overreacting unless it's individual star players not performing well for a very specific reason. Or they're underlying metrics do not say they're performing well. But again, it is spring training. But I did want to go over it, just talk about it. And last in the Cactus League is the only team to have not won a spring training game this entire spring, and that is the Giants. So hopefully they can get off their feet. They've been hit with some injured pitching, of course. So I'll take it with a grain of salt, and I'll hope they can get better. So yeah, that's our third segment. We're going to move to our last segment here, which is going to be about news around the league, stuff that's going on. So we'll talk about that next. Well, first we'll go to a break, and we'll see you after that. So thanks. All right, we are back here for our fourth and final segment on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. So this is going to be just talking about some news around the league that I wanted to touch on here. So the first one is going to be about the Angels, which I talked about before. So two pieces of news. First, a more positive one. According to Ron Washington, they are stretching out reliever Andrew Wentz to be a starter this spring and be a starter for the season. An interesting decision, as we've seen a lot more teams do this, of course. I've talked about it on the show multiple times. So, yeah, I definitely think it's interesting to see. Wentz has been a common contributor to the Angels' bullpen the past few years, and him becoming a starter is kind of surprising. But, again, Washington said they need more pitching depth than they have present, which I definitely agree with. So I think Wentz turning into a starter does make some sense. It's just kind of interesting. Next, we have some more negative news for the Angels. It's mostly always negative news for Angels. Sorry, Angels fans. It's just the way it goes. You have Robert Stevenson, who was scratched from playing catch. 2 days ago, he has some shoulder soreness. Sorry, always gets me at the double S's. And might start the season on the IL. Obviously, not a good start for a reliever signed to a huge 3-year contract. I thought Robert Stevenson was a great signing, someone I wanted the Mets to sign all offseason long. I think the stuff he showed with Tampa is legit, and I think he's going to be a very, very good reliever for a long time after that. But, of course, when you sign relievers to these long-term deals, you have to risk injury. Not just pitchers, but even relievers. I think they're more injury-prone because they pitch more than starters. So yeah, it makes sense that this is happening, but still a problem about that, and it was always an interesting move for the Angels to sign all these relievers this offseason to big deals when they're not really competing that much. Signing other guys is fine, but just relievers is strange. I mean, just looking at the sheer amount of guys they signed to the bullpen this year that are notable. I mean, of course, you have Robert Stevenson. You also have Matt Moore, Adam Simber, Luis Garcia, Jose Cisnero, Adam Kolarek. I mean, $50.6 million spent in offseason relievers. So, it's crazy. And I don't know why they did that if they're kind of rebuilding, retooling. They're not going to be that good. So, yeah, it was an interesting decision, and it's backfiring already, but hopefully Stevenson's good to go. I really want to see what he could do in a full season, and I think him and Estevez could be a nice back end to the bullpen for that Angels team. We have next some more negative news, some more injury news. Ronald Acuna Jr. today was scratched from the lineup with knee soreness. Never a good sign. It doesn't seem like it's much. Brian Snitker said he should be fine. He said it's just precautionary reasons that they took him out. But you never want your star player being scratched from the lineup. So, not a good thing for the Braves, but again, it shouldn't be a big deal. I think it's fine. And, hopefully it's not a big deal for Braves fans. Hopefully he's fine. I think he is, but again, something to touch on because when one of the better players in baseball, arguably the best player in baseball considering he won MVP last year, gets scratched, you have to talk about it. So, Brandon Crawford, who recently signed with the St. Louis Cardinals, talked about how that he wanted to re-sign with the Giants, but they didn't want him. So that's an interesting thing. He hinted that it was Farhan Zaidi, who is the president of baseball operations for the Giants, did not want to re-sign him. I don't think that's too crazy. Simply put, Crawford has regressed these past few years, was pretty horrible last year after an amazing 2021 out of nowhere. He didn't make much sense, especially with youngster Marco Luciano taking the reins at shortstop. So it's not a big deal, but I understand if Crawford feels some type of way about it. He played his entire career there and is now going to the Cardinals. So, something that was interesting. Interesting that he said that, but not surprising in any way. We talked about it a little bit before, but Chris Bryant, he said in a nice way, he signed with the Rockies because he thought their prospects were better than they actually are, and that he just wanted to sign with the team before spring training, which is not very good, to say the least here. Signing with the team like that, signing because of that, and then getting immediately hurt and being one of the worst contracts in baseball. So it just continues to be the Rockies continue to be the laughingstock of baseball with their organization. I mean, man, they just have no idea what they're doing. It makes me mad, but what are you going to do? The Red Sox, they signed slugging first baseman C.J. Cron to a minor league deal. They've always needed some first base depth for the past few years. You have Tristan Casas, Bobby Dalbec, who are probably gonna be contributors there, and I think it makes sense to add some depth in there with C.J. Cron. He's a good player. Brings some nice depth to that first base position, and brings some nice depth to that team. So, excited to see what happens with Cron in there. Obviously, I'm sure Red Sox fans would like some more major signings, but I think Cron's a nice start. I think he's a good depth move for them. And, I just think it's a nice move, and, good move. We talked about him yesterday, but Tristan Beck of the San Francisco Giants, who had an aneurysm in his arm, is having surgery to correct it and make it better. We don't know how long he's going to be out, but I don't think it should be that long. I think it just depends on his rehab process and how, attentive he is towards it, how much he attacks it, how his body reacts to it. Maybe a month or so if I had to give a little guess, but I don't think it should be that long. Maybe even is on the roster for opening day, but I think even if he is, it's still an injury risk. It's still another injury to this Giants rotation, and I've talked about it before, but Michael Lorenzen's still out there. I think he'll be a great fit for the Giants. I don't know why they're not doing it. I understand if you don't want to add a guy like Montgomery or Snell to a long-term contract, you're not very high in them for their long-term outlook. But at the same time, Michael Lorenzen, he's a good pitcher. I think he makes a lot of sense for the Giants, and it's strange that, he's still out there. So I'd look for the Giants to be a part of the Lorenzen thing, especially now, and I think he makes a lot of sense for them. Matt Brash from the Mariners bullpen, one of their bigger pieces. He's throwing next week after some setbacks with his injuries. So, good sign for the Mariners bullpen. Obviously had some early injuries to there with him and Gregory Santos both going down. But I think Matt Brash coming back is a good sign for this Mariners bullpen. A really good reliever, guy with just elite stuff, raw. I'm looking forward to see what happens with Brash and how he can affect that Mariners bullpen and can it get healthy. Hopefully him and Gregory Santos come back. I'm looking forward to see what the Giants do this season with their younger team, with the moves they've made. yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the Mariners. So sorry again for saying looking forward so much, but I am. I'm looking forward to this season. If you don't know, I really want baseball to start. I'm really excited for it. Really want to see what happens this season. So I'm very excited. And I really can't wait. And it starts in a month or so, and I'll be talking about it here. Believe me. The Mets, they made a minor league signing John Duplantier to a minor league contract for just a one year deal. Made a lot of sense, again, with the injuries they've had. Former top 100 prospect with the Diamondbacks, just never worked out there. Going to the Mets now, less pressure. I think it's going to be a nice addition to the Syracuse Mets for AAA. Will probably come up at some point in the year as depth. And, yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do in spring and also how he can fill in the team. Next, we have Carlos Rodon. Some more negative news for baseball fans, or maybe not if you don't like the Yankees. But Rodon gave up 4 home runs today in a little exhibition game with the Yankees. Not a very good sign, I'd say, if you're a Yankees fan, considering the struggles Rodon had last year. But I don't think it's a big deal, unless the balls were hit extremely hard and the metrics on his stuff were not very good. Home runs happen. It's more about the stuff and how you can bring that into the year than the actual results right now. You want process over results, and if his process of the pitches and his pitches are performing well, it's not a big deal to me. But still not ideal, of course. You want Rodon to pitch very well. I've said it a few times, but he is the X factor this Yankees season. I have a video up here about all the teams and their X factors. So if you want to look at the AL one, but feel free to do that. He's the first player I talk about. So yeah. Not a great start for Rodon, but I think he'll be better, and he's a big part of that Yankees season. And I really want to see how he performs and if he can bounce back. Next, we have Luis Severino. He had his first start with the Mets today after the big offseason signing for them, after playing horrible for the Yankees last year. He threw 97 and had 2 scoreless innings with them. I was watching, and his stuff was pretty good. Hitting 97 I think is a big deal. And I'm really, really interested to see how he performs this season. I'm high on him. I think the stuff he's done in the offseason to help himself are really going to work out. And I really do think he's going to be a major impact to this Mets team and the Mets rotation and what does happen there. So, I really want to see him do well. Always seemed like a really cool guy. When he was on, was, one of the coolest guys in baseball with that swag, with, him yelling off the mound every time he got an out. That Twins series, series versus the Twins, where he's in Minnesota, loaded the base with no outs and got out of it. That's just stuck in my mind about how much excitement was there. I love guys who love playing baseball, and I think Severino has shown over the past years that he loves playing baseball. He is one of those guys, and I love his enthusiasm for the game. And I'm really excited to watch him for my Mets, and really excited to see how he does bounce back, and if the additions he did make this offseason help him, and how they do affect him in general as well. So just recapping a tiny bit, we talked about other news around the league at this whole thing. Ronald Acuna and his situation with him getting scratched from the lineup. Brandon Crawford saying the Giants didn't really want him. Makes sense though. Red Sox signing C.J. Cron to a minor league deal. Makes sense as well. Another good first base depth for them. Good power depth. Just a good position player to have in the minor league team and at your arsenal. Tristan Beck having surgery for his aneurysm on his arm. Again, another hit to that Giants pitching staff. Michael Lorenzen, he's out there. Sign him. Be a great signing in my opinion. Matt Brash helping that Mariners bullpen by coming back quickly after injury. Good for them. Mets signing John Duplantier. Good depth move for the starting pitching that has been injured a little bit. Carlos Rodon, not a great start with the Yankees, but I'm not too worried, and I think he'll improve. And finally, Luis Severino, playing for the Mets for the first time, throwing 97, having 2 scoreless innings, and playing pretty well. That's going to be it for our show today. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means a lot. Again, remember to like, follow, subscribe. Remember to subscribe. 51% of you who watch the content aren't, so make sure that you do. Follow us everywhere that you can see us. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. All content and updates will be on there. So thank you so much again for that. Really appreciate it, you guys, for the support. And have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Let's see what baseball throws at us on Monday. All right. See you later, guys. Bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.